All right, Elko can hear us and we're good. Okay, I'll call the meeting to order. We need to do a roll call, Laura, for their end here.
Yes, please.
Okay, so Doug Ferris is present. Walt Gardner. AJ Govici is here observing. That's all for Elko. That's all we have here.
If we could go around the room and let them know who all we have. Laura Bartos for Department of Administration, or Agriculture Administration.
Daryl Purcell, Nevada Farm Bureau.
Pat Jackson, Nevada Department of Wildlife.
Dennis Belcourt, Deputy Attorney General.
Brian Wakeling, Nevada Department of Wildlife.
And Mark Jensen, Wildlife Services.
Yeah. We're going to back up and we're going to do a pledge allegiance to the flag. Start. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, do we have any public comment?
None from Sparks.
None from Sparks, she said. Well, I'm not there. Okay, yeah. Okay, having no public comment, I guess we'll go to the minutes and see if we have an approval of the minutes, or did everybody get a copy of the minutes? Do they need some time? Or I move to approve minutes as written.
Who moved to approve the minutes?
Walt Gardner.
Walt.
Perfect, thank you.
I'll second it.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it. I don't know if you heard that.
I don't know if it matters, but on the third page there's a small typo. It says it's the second bullet. It's project 22074, not 047.
Okay, I will make that change.
Okay. Any other corrections?
No.
And who was that to second it?
Daryl.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, from there we'll move to the committee business, the Nevada Department of Wildlife fiscal year 2019 Predator Control Plan presentation and coordination of submission of comments with Brian Wakeling, Nevada Department of Wildlife. This could be an action item. Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I'm going to try not to, I just bumped the phone and I'm going to hope that it doesn't hang up when I slide it back where it was. Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to, in a moment, ask Pat Jackson to kind of go through the details of the plan as the committee chooses to hear that. But I wanted to let everybody know kind of where we are in the process. We formulated an initial plan. We shared it with the commission at their January commission meeting. And we got their initial feedback on the plan that we have at this point in time. The support materials that were posted to the Department of Ag's website were the same ones that were posted to the Nevada Board of Wildlife Commissioners website and what they initially heard. And so there's no changes currently incorporated in that from the feedback that we received from the commission. And Pat can elaborate on the changes, but overall there were very minor comments that the commission provided at this point in time. The Wildlife Damage Management Committee will be reviewing the predation management plan on the evening of March 15th. It'll be 6 o'clock. I'm sorry, it'll be at 5 o'clock, and it'll be at the Department of Wildlife's Las Vegas office in Vegas. And so at that point, the committee will take consideration of any of the comments that have been provided either by the public. We certainly want to hear from the park, and last year we received the comments, I want to say the morning of the committee meeting, and it makes it challenging to give it due consideration. If it's at all possible to receive any comments that the park may choose to formulate by the 9th of March, it would be a lot easier to get that information out to all the committee members so that they can actually take it under consideration. What will happen after that, the committee will provide an initial briefing to the commission on their actions on the 16th of March at the commission's meeting. The commission's meeting will be in Laughlin, and at that point we'll have some direction from the committee. The department will take that under consideration and finally provide a final recommendation to the commission at their May 4th and 5th meeting, which will be held here in Reno. That's kind of the process we're using. And what we have with the Predator plan this year is largely, and we can go into it in as much detail as the committee would choose to hear, but essentially most of the plan is fairly similar to what we had last year, what the commission finally was in support of at the end of the year last year. We're recommending 2 new projects this year, and we're recommending the discontinuation of 1 project this year. So, you know, if the committee chose, we can just, in the sake of brevity, just present the changes, or if the committee would prefer, we can certainly go into detail on each of the projects.
Okay. Do you want to hear most of the projects?
The only one I have questions on, Keith, would be Project 42.
Peter, we only have one question on Project 42.
They said they only have one question on Project 42. So do you not? I cannot provide a presentation, and we can just entertain questions. I'm fine with that.
By the way, can we all identify ourselves for the record so we have it on the recording?
Yeah, absolutely. I apologize. Brian Wakeling was with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. I gave most of the overview. Pat Jackson, staff specialist, can certainly respond to a question on 42, or if you would like a specific information regarding any of the items, those which we would choose to recommend discontinuing, or the ones we're recommending adding, we can do that as well.
Okay, I think we would just rather go right into the questions, unless somebody has an objection to that.
I worked so hard.
If somebody said something, we missed that.
Oh no, that was me. I was making a joke. You're good.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, this is Brian Wakeling. We can certainly respond to the questions as you would like to go forward. That doesn't present any problem for us.
There's something that you guys would like to present, or we've all read the comments or the draft.
That's fine. We can just respond to your questions.
Okay, well, Walt Gardner, first of all, has a question. I think we'll just go to the questions for the sake of time. We have some members here that are on the phone from a calving barn and stuff like that, so if we could make it move a little faster, I think that would help us.
Walt Gardner for the record. Brian, the question I have on Project 42 is there was none of that money spent last year. What is the reason for that?
Mr. Chairman, Committee Member Gardner, on Project 42, it's a relatively small project, looking at a total contract of about $10,000. What we're trying to do is accumulate all of the data into a single location, and as we're accumulating that data and assessing the availability and the applicability of the data, there's some work that's ongoing, and so essentially what we've done is paid for the work that has been done. At this point, we do not have a model. Pat, I'm going to have Pat Jackson respond to that a little bit more as well.
Sure, Pat Jackson for the record. We did not do any work this last year, hence no funds were spent, and from my situation, that was due to finishing up some contracts with the two contractors. Our state purchasing department, it's fairly novel to collaborate with people out of state that do not do business or do not physically live in Nevada, so there were some challenges with demonstrating that they don't actually need a business license. But more importantly, it was pretty time consuming to put some data sharing agreements in place, and so that was working with Wildlife Conservation Society and the two contractors and to share some mountain lion GPS data that the Wildlife Conservation Society employee had intellectual ownership to, and we're still in the process of working with other mountain lion researchers in the state that have GPS data sets. However, we are optimistic to have all those data sharing agreements in place and for work to be done and funds to be spent this fiscal year.
Yeah, I think this is Brian Wakeling again, and I think we may have kind of scrambled up a couple of answers there, so I'm not sure if we addressed the question that you asked specifically, and so if we did not, please let us know, and we'll try to do that a little bit more cleaner this time.
Walt Gardner for the record. No, that answers my question. So you do intend to move forward with this project this year?
Again, Brian Wakeling for the record. Our intent is to try and get that completed. We're in the process of working on that during this fiscal year. The plan that you have before you also is for the next fiscal year. We do not anticipate having it completed before the end of this fiscal year, and so Project 42, we do anticipate having it completed by the end of the next fiscal year, which is the one that this plan is in place for.
Okay, that answers my question.
Thank you. Does anybody else, the board members, have any questions that they want to ask?
Daryl Purcell, for the record, I'd like to know what the two new ones are.
Sure. Pat Jackson for the record. And so the two new ones for the record are known as, let me just turn to it in the Predator plan so I get the titles exactly right. The first new project is known as, we're going to refer to as Project 44, which is lethal removal and monitoring of mountain lions in Area 24, more specifically in the Delamar Mountains. The department has been attempting to establish a bighorn sheep population in there for quite some time. We believe that mountain lion predation is one of the main contributing factors. However, it's been a little puzzling to area biologists on why the sheep have not taken off like they would expect. And so this originally started out as just lethal mountain lion removal associated with Project 37, and will continue to have a lethal component. However, because we want to put GPS collars on mountain lions, we wanted to identify it in a project in of itself. And so I believe it would be the same page, page 32, also known as figure. I didn't refer to it as a figure. I apologize. It's just see the map for project 44. You can see the mountain lion removal area. That is an area specified by Cooper Munson as what he considers critical bighorn sheep habitat. And then the mountain lion collar area is not essential habitat, and so we want to understand how many mountain lions are in there and what their movements are and how much they do and do not go into that sensitive sheep habitat. So that's the gist of that project. And then project 45 is a passive survey estimate of black bears in Nevada. Currently, the department does a physical mark and recapture where we put our hands on wildland bears, and historically have put on a GPS collar, but that's not necessarily to do that program mark analysis. We would like to be able to estimate our statewide population passively and not have to catch bears, and so we intend to work with Michigan State University and Montana State to use basically hair snares and camera traps to passively estimate black bears. And so the funds associated with this project is basically replacing project 32, which is ending early, which is looking at black bear, mountain lion, and mule deer interactions.
Does that answer your question, Daryl?
Yep.
Yes. Okay. Is there any other questions? Tommy, do you have any questions?
No, I don't have any questions at this point.
All right. Well, is there any other presentations you'd like to make, or from the Department of Wildlife since we are moving along quite fast, if there's something else you'd like to enlighten us on?
Pat Jackson for the record. No, I don't have anything at this time.
Well, that moved on quite rapidly. Does the board have any suggestions or anything else they'd like to bring up?
Walt Gardner for the record. I felt like this plan was better put together than the last several we've looked at. I want to thank Brian and Pat for that. I would like to see a little more in the comment from previous years, but that's somewhat irrelevant. Other than that, I have no problems or issues with the plan as presented.
Thank you, Walt. This is Pete Paris for the record. On my part, I think I would like to see some more deer projects in certain areas, like maybe the O'Callahan Mountain in the central part of the state around Austin. I think that there's a need there for that. I don't know if NDOW could work on get to looking at some of those projects. I lived there for several years before, and I do know that that's a huge deer habitat area. And I know that there's a lot of coyote activity in that area that the people that live there on the range see a lot of coyote activity in the fawn herds. And I don't know why NDOW has not pursued that area a little heavier. Going by what they're doing in the Diamond Mountains, I think that would be a huge asset to that area. And I would like to see personally some kind of a project. For sure, we have them in the Rubies, we have them in a lot of places, and that O'Callahan Mountain is a huge wildlife area, deer fawning area, and it would work out. There's also livestock people in there that would like to see that happen. That would help everybody in general. It would help the sage grouse. It would help the antelope herds. There's a lot of antelope in that area. I'm just not understanding why that area has not been pursued a little heavier, or to get some kind of a project going in it. Is my personal belief anyway. So that's all I have. If you want to comment on what I just said or something, Brian or Pat.
Certainly. Brian Wakeling for the record. You know, the department is trying to spend the money in the you know, what we have the legislative mandate where we have to spend at least 80% of the dollars in some lethal removal fashion. And so we are looking, we do have the kind of the lens we look at our deer populations through is largely a triage approach. You know, we're looking to see which ones need to be treated and stand to benefit the most. And so we try to look at places that either are already complementing ongoing work or in the greatest need to have the work done. And so we will certainly take a look at the demographic data that we've got for the O'Callahan area. But my sense right now is that just based on the analysis and the approach that we've looked at it so far, most of it's not the highest priority area because of the limited, you know, it's a lot of money that we have each year from the sportsmen to do it, but nevertheless there is a limit to how much we can actually implement, and that's the primary reason we would do that. One caution I would make is that there is some limited research out there that indicates that reducing coyote populations is not always favorable to sage grouse, because sometimes you'll get a response from some of the other species like red fox and some of those other smaller mesopredators, and so it's not always a one-for-one. There's times where it certainly does work, but that's something else that we'd want to look at kind of carefully before we did that. But just overall, just looking at the priorities and the places where we have the largest challenges, the O'Callahan area probably just hasn't raised up far enough in our the criticality of it and the urgency of it. Pat, I don't know if you've got anything more to add.
No, I think that's fine. Pat Jackson for the record.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Not thinking that I agree 100% with it, but
well, and we will go back and look at the data to make sure that we haven't overlooked something.
Okay, well, I was more into the getting rid of coyotes is good for the sage grouse is my only comment that I'm making out of your statement. The rest of it I understand. I don't know the facts, so I won't stand here and say I know the facts, but the few facts that I do know of several years of being on the range, I have seen way more dead sage hens by coyotes than I ever have. What I've seen from coyotes is they eat the egg and the hen. That's a double whammy. So that's my perspective on the. I know it's been discussed thousands of times, but anyway, I do appreciate your answer, and if it works, fine. I know that area could simply use it. So, thank you. So do we want a motion for something, or do we just want to submit a handful of comments? Or if you guys want to put comments together, I think what we'll do is we'll get any of the board members that are here today and are willing to make a comment. We'll get those comments, and I do understand that you'd like to have them by March 9th, and I fully agree that you deserve that they should be in there to, so you can look at them and plan them and whatever you need to do with them. So I will make a recommendation. We will plan on having our comments to you by March the 9th, like you asked for.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody else have any other questions on this project? So hearing none, I don't see where we need anything for an action. We will just make some comments and we will go from there. Do you want to have all the comments sent to me, and then? Right, we'll have all the comments sent to Doug at the Department of Ag, and we'll see that he gets them to you by the March 9th. Is there any other questions? Well, hearing none with that, we'll move on to the meeting schedule discussion.
Walt Gardner, for the record, I make a motion that the chairman announce the next meeting when and where necessary.
Daryl Purcell for the record, I'll second that.
Okay, it's been made and seconded. The chairman will decide when and where we'll have the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carried. That brings us to public comment again. Is there any public comments now from what we discussed today?
None in Sparks.
Said none in Sparks. Okay, hearing none, no public comments. I guess that will conclude our meeting for today. If somebody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Walt Gardner, second.
All in favor?